I'm gonna start it so it starts recording and let me
Oh, Melissa and Emerson are both here. Good. And Julio as well.
Thanks. Let me do that.
Okay, very good. Okay, we can go ahead and get started and call the meeting to order. And as far as just can everybody state their name for the record? And we're recording this, yes, because we don't have.
Yep.
Okay, Mark Allen, chair. Just
Melissa
Go ahead.
Matuska,
thank you.
voting member.
Bob Abriola, voting member.
Nori,
Lori Gruden, treasurer.
Peter,
Peter Smith, voting member.
Emerson,
Emerson Strinidi, voting member.
Matt.
Matthew O'Callahan, voting member.
Hi, welcome, Janet.
Janet Evelyn, voting member.
Have I left out anyone?
I think Kadeem is trying to get on, but he's not here. But he's the only one.
Okay, and Brian Casper's not able to make it.
Yep.
And Helen.
Oh, Helen. Yeah. I haven't heard from her.
I haven't heard from her as well. Okay, so I'll reach out to her tomorrow. Okay, very good. And do we have anybody aside from Julio from the public that wants to participate?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the October 6th meeting? With the minutes, I believe the minutes were sent out with the agenda.
I haven't.
I have not myself read them. I mean, since we can take a minute to review them, since the meetings have been getting recorded, they've been pretty much verbatim, correct?
Yep. I also go in and make edits ahead of time for like people's names if they're wrong. So they're second vetted by me for the most part as well.
I'm comfortable with that. Thank you for scrolling them down.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a nomination for approving the minutes as noted?
I will move to approve the minutes. Emerson.
Thank you, Emerson. Is there a motion to second?
I'll second Bob Abriola.
Okay. We take a vote on approving the minutes as noted here on Zoom. That's Mark Allen, aye.
Melissa Matuska, aye.
Emerson Strinidi, aye.
Lori Gruden, aye.
Peter Smith, aye.
Janet Evelyn, aye.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think we didn't hear from Matt directly, but we have a quorum. So that's the ayes carry. Very good. For the committee staff updates, can we get a budget committee update from Nori, please?
Yes, I went through what I received from Maritza, And what we paid out for Michelle, some of the vote campaign artwork, the balance of our budget right now is $5,195. And paying Telesco too. I've added everything up with the calculator. But Sabrina has good news because it looks like we don't have that much money.
So it looks like we don't have much money, but all of our rollovers were approved. So all of these, well, not all of the accounts, but most of the accounts will be increased. What we requested to roll over, they approved the total amount. So the way the rollover works is it goes into where you see organization number. It's really the account number. So it'll go back to that line item wherever it originally came from. So we got approved for that. Those will roll over. So Michelle will be covered. Telesco will be covered. And we are moving forward pretty much. I also wanted to update you guys. I had the first of the 4 budget meetings for next year's budget. Today, we had 3 capital requests. One of them was for the Art in Public Places program, which is what we're doing for MLK right now. Now we're not tied to a geography, so we can have some strategizing around that if it gets approved in BET Planning Commission by the mayor and by council. So we still have a lot of steps to go, but that's one of the items. Another item is the Washington Street barrier, since we'll probably be doing that process going forward in other spring and summer months. I also put those 2 requests out for the next 5 fiscal years. So hopefully they understand that it's a reoccurring thing that we're asking for to continue the programming. And then the last piece is the public art inventory. Capital budget's really tight this year, so finance suggested that we request it next year. I'm going to bring it forward to BET Council and Planning Commission as is, and if they also agree that we should, cut it and move it into next year, we'll deal with it as it comes. It's not really something that's urgent, but obviously something that we want to get done, so at least it's on the radar if we don't get it. They also approved there was a $1,200 increase in the operating budget because we were shorted that the last year. And they approved that increase going forward. So we'll have, it's about $10,500 overall for our operating. And then for our capital, if the public art inventory is in there, that's $100,000. The public places art is $50,000. And then the barriers is $6,000. So you're looking at $156,000 if all gets approved. If not, we'll have the 56 in capital and then the 10,500 in operating.
Can I just ask a question? For the funding for the MLK, that was for 2019, 2020?
Yep.
Okay, so going forward for 2020, 2021, that art in public places money, is that future money, like an additional?
Yep.
Beyond MLK?
Yep. So we have the $50,000 already for MLK specifically, and I transformed that project into a broader art in public places project. So we're not specifically tied to a geography going forward. That gives us leeway of where we want to install. And if we want to pick a specific geography, we could do Wall Street, we can do deeper South Norwalk, we can do, East Norwalk, we can kind of have our choosing. So it's more general, but we'll have the $50,000, hopefully if they approve it for next year. And then I'll go back the following year for FY23 for another 50. So it'll just keep rolling in $50,000 every year for us to do something with.
Okay.
Good.
And so for that new project, that would be then available as of 2021?
Yep. So the new funding, everything that I just mentioned, if approved, will be available July 1st, 2021.
Okay.
So Sabrina, to clarify, so the ensuing $50,000 and the art in public places, that's for future projects, not specifically the MLK project. That still remains the same. Is that
Correct.
correct?
So
Yeah.
the money we have for this year is specifically for the MLK project. If we want to use the Art in Public Places project for more art in the MLK corridor, that's perfectly fine. I just made it a more broad, so we're not tied to a geography in the line item. So I just renamed the line item to the Art in Public Places program so that we have more flexibility.
I think that's great.
Yep, that's great.
Okay, thank you, Nori. Sabrina, can you go back to the agenda for me?
Sure can.
So this is a question more back towards Nori or Sabrina. With the money that was now rolled over,
Yep.
can you tell me then for available for the communications, what our remaining balance is for social media, et cetera?
I can let you know. I don't have the exact numbers for sure until they actually roll them into the system, and they haven't done that yet.
Okay.
I can tell you now that we have for professional services, which is Michelle's,
Mhm.
is $2,450.
So we will have enough money to pay Michelle what she has been paid every single month throughout the rest of this fiscal year with the rollover.
Right, but will there be any additional funds available for social media advertising or other communications related costs?
We don't have an advertising budget as of right now. We could move funds into an advertising account. But the other professional services is also where we draw like artist payments if we were to do kind of those one-off projects like the vote stuff. So if we do anything else like that, that's where it comes from as well. So it just depends. We'd have to take a look at it and really crunch the numbers a little bit more.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So the communications committee, we have not had a communications committee meeting per se, but Michelle, who is not able to be here today, as you guys know, has been doing a great job with our Facebook and our Instagram. So I don't really have any news on that. But once I get that information from Sabrina regarding any additional funds that we can use for communications, then hopefully we'll be able to continue to grow our footprint through social media, with advertising. Because I really feel like that to me is something that we need to do to just make sure that we are able to reach more people. I really think that, especially in this time of COVID-19, not able to meet in person, social media really is our public outreach. And unless we're reaching a maximum number of people, then we're not really able to really engage with the public too much. So,
Mark, we should think about the Art Speak and doing online versions of that. Our original idea with Peter was to do those live events.
yeah.
But I think an online version would work, given COVID, because it doesn't seem like we'll be able to be doing any of those, certainly not this year, maybe even until the middle of next year. So maybe we'll just put it as a separate item to talk about, but I think that might be an option for us.
I agree. That's something we could definitely do as a Zoom meeting with public participation. That would be really easy.
Yeah, we'll promote it through social media and it shouldn't be too hard to do.
Yeah, I love that idea. Very good. Okay. So as a matter of infrastructure, Emerson has been really interested in heading up the infrastructure committee, has started to organize a meeting, and he can speak. If we have to really identify the infrastructure committee, and really, as far as like him being the leader of that, it's really I don't know, Sabrina, would that be for me to appoint, or would that be for the group to choose itself?
The
there any-
subcommittee positions aren't formalized, so it could just be whoever
Yeah.
wants it, kind of deal.
So is that something we should do offline?
Yeah, you can do that offline, that's fine.
Okay. But Emerson,
Email. Oh, sorry, Mark. I was
Go
just gonna
ahead.
say real quick, I was gonna send an email after this meeting and reschedule it for another time because it fell through last week. So that's all I was gonna do, just after this meeting. And whoever is on the email chain that I had emailed before, I was just gonna send an email to that one.
so one of the things for the infrastructure that we had discussed in the past was the public art inventory. And so Sabrina, has proposed a hiring consultant for that. And that's something that you guys should definitely be talking about in infrastructure. I had found, which I had forwarded to Sabrina, and RFP. I don't know if it was a draft. I don't know if it was issued. I don't know if there were ever any bids collected, but there was a draft for such a proposal in 2014 under Susan Wallerstein. So at least we have that draft to pull from, and we can start to move forward with that. Clearly, it's going to be a pretty massive undertaking.
Yeah, and from a procurement standpoint, since it's going to be in a capital request eventually, I'm not sure if that's, sooner or later, depending on what gets approved and what doesn't. But what purchasing needs is an introduction, a description of the project, and then the scope of work. And then once we send, that 2 to 3 page document of all of those details, they put all the city details in, like the jargon that's required for every RFP. And then they also organize all of the scheduling, the interviews, any of that type of deal that happens after the fact. We just have to provide them with that intro, description, and the scope.
Hey, Mark, do you mind joining us for the first infrastructure meeting? Just so you, because I know there are certain things that you're aware of as far as like where we're at with the murals and certain things, just so that way, when we move forward, we won't be like, oh, we need to check and see where we are with certain things.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that. And I want to be available to the committee and regardless, and make sure that you have everything you need. Absolutely.
Emerson, if you want to meet with me offline to go through some of the city stuff that me and Mark have talked about in relation to infrastructure, I'm happy to do that too. We've been doing a lot with the legal department and trying to iron out a process, and I think we have it nailed down finally. So we can talk about that too.
That'll be good for me. I'll send an email.
Okay.
Yeah, when Sabrina, really figured out that, the public art policy that we were looking to amend was never really ratified in a formal way. So technically speaking, we don't really have a public art policy at this time. So unfortunately, all the work trying to amend the policy really, not that was wasted time because we've done a lot of research, but we really just need to have a formal public art policy. And then that really means working with Sabrina to really figure out the process by which art is acquisitioned and commissioned, and all of that legal process. Everything has to be done, worked out, with the other agencies, with Common Council approval. There's a lot that goes into it. So that's going to be a lot of work for infrastructure to really work on. Fortunately or unfortunately, we know what we're doing now. So, okay. So yes, yes, Melissa, absolutely, I will do that. I'm going to defer on the Walk Bridge Art Project because it really falls. I would just say that in terms of the Walk Bridge, there's not been any developments. But I do have, actually, I'll talk about it now briefly. Later on in the agenda, there was a proposal for under the subject of William D. Peters Art Park. This is only a proposal, but I don't know, is anybody here, this is not a quiz or a trick question, but is anybody here familiar with the William D. Peters Art Park in Norwalk?
I just Googled it.
What's that?
I just Googled it.
Yeah, does anybody know where it is or what it is? I found it by accident personally. It exists on a strip of land close to the Lockwood Matthews Mansion, and it's on West Avenue, and it's a strip of land that has a rock with a plaque that says William D. Peters Art Park. I don't know who William D. Peters is or was. I've been trying to research it. I've contacted Susan Wallerstein. At one time, the art park had 2 statues in it. One was a Breck Morgan statue, and one was a Carol Eisner statue. I don't know if they were ever actually there or if they were supposed to be there, but currently there were 2 empty concrete pedestals where statues were or were supposed to be.
Mark, is that like the nice area that's like next to the gas station?
Yeah.
directly? That little nice seating area and all that?
Janet,
I think
didn't
so.
you and Janet? Is Janet there? Because I thought you and
Yeah,
Helen looked into those places. Weren't they going to do something with the isn't that the sculpture garden? Or is that somewhere
Right,
else?
it is the sculpture garden, and I'm believing what you're referring to, Mark, is a little grassy area that's adjacent to or across from the wall on West Avenue where we have that yellow ribbon
Yes, that's
artwork.
correct. It's opposite the vines.
The vines, right, the vines, right, where it's directly across the street from there, and it's kind of like a little area between the South Norwalk exit from the South Norwalk exit and then the on-ramp going up to Route 7 and I-95.
Correct.
And I believe that's where Five Fingers had placed his Native American statue that was this, there was this big controversy about it. Yeah.
Well, there's nothing currently there. It's currently an empty art park. This was really more for the new business, but I had basically, since we were looking at some sort of art project for materials from the Walk Bridge at such time that the Walk Bridge is demolished, so they would be salvaging some of these materials. I thought perhaps we could sort of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and possibly have some art created that goes into that art park. But that's it's really just a hypothetical proposal at this point. I have not done anything formal. I've discussed it with Sabrina through email.
Did you actually talk to Susan about that? I want to say that she referred to that as the 5 pads. And I want to say that she always wanted to have something put there.
Yeah, I don't know. I wrote to her about that. I haven't heard from her yet, but I did find, do you remember, Melissa or Janet, an art walk brochure that had been created?
Yes, I just Googled it. It's in here.
Yeah.
That-
I have it. I can share it if I can share the screen.
Mark, the city maintains that area?
Yeah, it's a city.
Yes.
I believe it's a city park.
Yes, the city maintains it.
But is that the sculpture garden or is it something else? It's a sculpture
Separate from
garden.
the sculpture garden. I'm
I think
not
the
sure.
sculpture garden is in a different area around Lockwood Mansion.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but because there were a couple of Eisners that were supposed to be there, and we knew
Yeah.
they were not there anymore.
I'm not so sure, Melissa. I think the pad and I think it's the same place. Whether what you refer to as this pad and it's called sculpture garden. That's what I think. But
Yeah, I
That's
just
what she
remember
had been calling it.
over by the aquarium. there is a spot near the aquarium that like has a couple of benches, and that's where a couple of sculptures were. There was a Carol Eisner that was there, and it's no longer there, and that was the location of the one that had been moved.
So, Sabrina, am I able to share my screen?
Yeah.
Where I do that?
You should be able to now.
All right. It's been so long since I did that. Yeah. Okay. Good. So this is the, so in this art, this is really cool, actually, this work that was done. I don't know when this was done, but it was an art walk brochure. It's a 2-page PDF. And you could see here where it says William D. Peters Art Park, it lists 2 statues, Cloud Tower, Breck Morgan, and Timeless Clock, Carol Eisner. And you can see the small, very small picture shows the Cloud Tower by Breck Morgan. So there was definitely art there at one time, but I don't know when that was taken away and now we are left with these empty pads. Now, whether if that's a good location for an art park or not, that we can decide that. But the fact that it's there with a plaque and it's just these empty pads, to me seems a little wacky. I think that's something that we could really talk about as far as really either making use of that space or moving the park or whatever we want to do with it. But
Mark, could you forward this brochure out to
Yeah.
the group?
I will. I'll send it to everybody.
Yes, great.
But obviously, there was a lot of really good work done, and we certainly. I'm glad I've discovered this because we should definitely build on it and certainly update it.
On our Facebook page, Michelle posted the timeless clock from Carol Eisner. So it was on the pad. It's from April 10th.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's on there.
Hmm.
Because that's what I was Googling the guy and that came up, and then another statue came up,
Well,
or
I've been in
sculpture.
touch with Breck recently. I was supposed to go to his studio this past weekend for a show up in Bridgeport, and I was not able to go. But I'll find out what happened to that and how long it's been that. I think it's been in that condition at the park there for at least a year that I know of, because it's been a year since I found it. But yeah, that was my only thing about the walk bridge idea, is that if it turns out that we're able to salvage this material from the bridge and we're able to put together a proposal for an art sculptural project, maybe that would be a situation where we have a perfect place for art to go. So like I say, that this is something I thought of recently. So I will create a proposal for that at some point.
Is there any way to find out what happened to that artwork that was there?
Yeah, I reached out to Susan to ask her. I can reach out to Breck Morgan directly. Carol Eisner, I have not been able to contact. She's pretty much retired, and I don't know where she is these days.
All right. It wasn't stolen or vandalized, right?
I don't think so. The pads are empty. It's funny. I could share it from my phone. I took a photo of the pad. The pad says, "Please do not step on the statue. Please do not climb on the statue." And then you see an empty pad. It's kind of funny. But yeah.
I want to say a lot of the Carol Eisner, I could be wrong on this, but I want to say a lot of the Carol Eisners were not something that was a permanent donation. And I think that was something that kind of spearheaded some of the documentation as far as when people give us a loan, who's responsible for it. And that's how that legal document started about as far as when you do a donation.
So there may have been a loan at one time, you're saying, and then it was just taken away at some point.
I think it was not a formal loan. I think it was a loan without paperwork. And then that became the question of what happens if something happens to the artwork or someone, who's responsible. And so that's when all that started, I believe.
Yeah, I think that sounds familiar because Helen was saying she was having issues with getting, is it a loan? We have it? What's, where is it in limbo or is it just sitting there?
Well, and then I did find this. This was an article where this was from a newspaper. You guys can see that?
Mhm.
Yeah, this is from a newspaper article, 2012. And I think this might have been just a mock-up. I don't think, well, you can see the clock tower there, the clock tower, whatever that statue is. I think
The bronze one is the timeless thing.
that's
That's
the
that's,
Carl Eisner one.
yes.
Okay. Well, I wondered if this was a mock-up because if you, at the bottom, it says the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency here's input on proposed street improvements. So I wondered if this was like a proposal. I wonder if this stuff had ever actually been there. I don't know. Maybe we can find out from Susan Schweitzer. Is she still with redevelopment? Sabrina?
No.
Okay. So who knows? Okay, so we'll more to come on William D. Peters Art Park. We'll see. And that's all we really have for infrastructure. Well, no, that's not true. Let's get an update on the MLK project from Janet.
Yeah, so the committee, which is made up of Mark, Brian, Casper, Bob Abriola, and myself. I guess I think Kadeem is also on that committee, if I recall correctly. Anyway, yeah, so, we've just made a few attempts to try to meet, and over the past few weeks, between especially the last meeting in October and now, and we hadn't been able to do that as a group, as a team, as a committee. Sabrina and I did meet, and we were able to flesh out. We were able to kind of flesh out a plan or a timeline with regards to within the window that we have to get this project done or spend this money towards the art installation project for the MLK corridor. I'm happy to hear that, we're getting additional funding for public art, that is not necessarily limited to one area. That's really good news. And also happy to hear that this budget will continue to stay within the Martin Luther King corridor, because I think that's a wonderful thing for the community, and particularly the lower MLK corridor, which goes from all the way down. I think it's Wilson Point, and then sort of like up to where. Thank you, Julio, for that. From Wilson Point all the way up to kind of where the police station is, and that. Parallels, or that sits between Martin Luther King Boulevard and what would be Day and Water Street, coming right up to just about Washington Street. So I think that's really good news that we can still focus our efforts there. So out of that, so again, Sabrina and I came up with a timeline for that. And given the timeline, we were thinking about, she went back and looked at what we would need in terms of procurement from the city, and how would we go about, given that it's a capital municipal budget, how would we go about formalizing, paying any suppliers or vendors for this. So she came back and said that we needed 3 quotes for that. That we needed 3 quotes to identify I'm using the word curator here because one of the first things that we thought about with this project was that we needed someone to steer it, you know, to that could help to identify potential locations, identify vetting locations, help to bring the ideas around the themes within the community, and also somewhat, you know, individual, again, project curator that can connect and know the various artists within the community. And given that it's MLK, that it was specifically designated for the MLK project. You know, one of the things I think all of the members on the committee, the subcommittee, agrees is that the ideas and themes and effort should be output and should be work that comes from the voices within the community. So, so that much we had sort of agreed upon. So with that, Sabrina came back and said that we needed 3 quotes. We were able to get 3 quotes from various artists within the community that we could consider, again, to spearhead or steer this project. Some of the discussion points within the committee is whether or not we needed, whether or not the project should have one curator versus multiple curators, 2 or 3 different types of curators, so forth and so on. You know, as the committee lead, I do feel that I think the project is such that we would benefit from not having, especially at the outset and at the initial point, having too many voices that try to decide which way we want to go with this project, or even come up with the ideas. And we should try to keep it as structured as possible. So my recommendation to the committee, and as well as to Sabrina, is that we should seek to at least find someone, a curator, project manager, coordinator, whatever we'd like to call it, that that is going to manage and steer the project specifically from the community. And then I think that my recommendation is that one person could potentially do it. Given that the budget is it's a $50,000 budget. It's not, you know, $200,000 or $100,000, or it's not at the point where we're looking at so many different portrayals or variations of what this art installation could potentially be like. There are so many other preliminary things, you know, such as locations, vetting the locations, so forth and so on, that we would need to do. So at this point, right now, I think, Mark, I think we may need to decide whether we want to have 3 curators, 4 curators, how many curators we want to have, and how we might go about that process. And Sabrina, you may be able to give us some more insight as to specifically what the city's purchasing department would require at this time.
Well, actually, I'd like to jump in for a second. I just want to concur with what you're saying. I think we did get hung up on the titling of the role. I think when we were talking about curators and then I said project manager or project coordinator, I mean, in the beginning, I had envisioned that this work would be done by the committee. And I do agree with you that I think having one person sort of steer it is the right way to go. And to me, that person should be the quote unquote project manager. And I think it makes sense that the project manager report to our subcommittee. And then maybe, as far as like whether we need to hire one curator or multiple curators, I think that decision could be made, by the project manager. you know, depending on the number of locations and the number of installations. If it turns out to be one installation, then you don't need more than one curator. So I think that deciding how many curators you need without having, you know, that sort of like, without thinking through various ideas is kind of premature. So I think the idea of hiring one project manager makes complete sense. I know you had, I think that for under $10,000, we only have to have 2 proposals, but I believe you have 3. Do you have, I know Julio had submitted a proposal. I don't know. Did you say that Jermaine had submitted a proposal for that?
Right, Jermaine has, well, not a detailed proposal, because I think what Sabrina was requiring at that point was just a quote with regards to, yeah, just a quote in terms of cost. So Jermaine did provide one, which was forwarded to Sabrina. And another artist had provided one as well. Her name is Lindsay Koenig, Leslie Koenig, and right. And I believe Sabrina, I forwarded those 2, just the numbers, but not a detailed proposal as such, because again, the turnaround, you know, required was literally less than 24 hours for this, actually, for the quotes themselves.
I have, I've seen Julio's, Julio is here, so, you know, he can speak to his proposal, but I've seen Julio's proposal, and I will say this, because of having worked with Julio on the Ryan Park project, to me, he's a vetted producer who has managed a similar project. I mean, for the amount of time that he put into that and all the hurdles that he overcame to get that project done, I think he's proven. I like Jermaine as an artist, but to me, I don't know him as any sort of project manager. So myself personally, I would be very much in favor of Julio taking on that position.
I mean, Mark, if I could jump in, I think Janet was right, and I'll concur with what she said, is that, you know, at this point, we're still kind of figuring it out, right? There's still a lot of legwork to be done as far as vetting the spaces. I think that was the one thing that we knew about Ryan Park, is we knew the confines of where the art was going to go, but there's a whole production side of this, to where before we even get to the creative stage of it, where we have to vet the space and make sure that it's okay, and like I talked about before with you guys, which is about creating the portfolio of spaces that we can kind of, you know, if it's this year's budget, if we can get some corporate sponsorship, we have this catalog of spaces that we have vetted already. So that's kind of where my head is at, is to be like, you know what, let's kind of agree on, you know, where the spaces are, and vet those spaces, you know, to the point where you even get to the curation process. So I do agree with the idea of more of a coordinator's role. But yeah, you know, that's where my head is at, where I'm like, you know what, let's find out where the spaces are, and talk to whoever needs to be talked to, because that's the one thing in my experience, is that all of that has to be figured out, as far as if it's public land or private land. All of that needs to be sorted before we even, you know, put pen to paper as far as any ideas are concerned.
So do you feel that that's work that is done by the committee, or are you proposing to sort of take the lead on that role, given your proposal?
I apologize for my dog. Janet and I have actually already started this process. She's given me a list of spaces, and I'm been going around taking pictures. And also I welcome from the committee as well. I know you guys took a tour yourselves. So I want to create like a living, breathing document that everyone can look at and reference and say, oh yeah, this looks like a good space within the budget. Yeah, we can do it here. It's green lighted. It's all good. So that's kind of where, to me, almost like as a consultant at this point, just to vet and organize the whole project. You know, kind of, you know, what I did with Ryan Park, which I was hired as a consultant first, just to kind of formulate the whole project.
Right. What I'm saying is, for you to, I mean, you've already started this work, but in terms of procurement and, would you be doing this with the understanding that we are hiring you as a consultant? Do we need to basically deal with that hiring aspect first before we continue working? Or are you comfortable working without that and just working as a committee member? I'm just trying to understand, because we want to basically make sure that we're moving forward, we're all on the same page.
Right. I think the last time I got a consultant fee, which was like $250 to just kind of put a document together to show what I envisioned for the project, as far as nothing creatively, but just talking specifically about, what the goals were, what the community engagement was, all those kind of things, that the production side of it. So, I'm comfortable with that. If not, I'm comfortable to jump in full-fledged at this point as well. I'm just, giving you some options.
I think it's fair to pay a consultant fee, Mark. I would propose that. I think that's a good idea. I mean, and you are a known commodity, Julio, so I support what Mark comments were.
Yeah, and then, at that point, that's when you bring in your multiple proposals, to say, if you want to talk to other curators, you want to bring somebody in, I'm willing to throw my hat into the ring along with everyone else. So I think at this stage, though, we need the organization part of it. And then, as we step forward, you open it up and we're all in agreement as to what the project is and what we can do with the space and money that we have.
So this consultant, the consultant fee, is that the fee that's in the proposal that you submitted already?
All of our conversations was just, between Janet and myself. As far as anything formal, I haven't submitted anything formal other than the creative kind of, the creative piece that I shared with you.
Okay.
And you can share that. You can share that as well.
Yeah, I will. I could share that with everybody.
Want me to share it on my screen?
Yeah,
or?
that'd be great if Sabrina can open that up. Yeah, I had heard that there was a suggested fee of 15% of the project total, which was $7,500. And look, I'll be straight with you. I know the amount of time that you put into Ryan Park. And I think that, for the amount of money that you were paid on as a consultant on that, I think that, I don't know that you got a great deal, to be honest with you, but it was a very fair amount considering the amount of time over 2 years that you put into that. So I think that 50% is very reasonable. So
Mark, I just want to flag for everybody that we have 10 minutes before we need to get kicked off. So.
Okay. Does anybody, would anybody make a motion to hire Julio as this consultant at that rate of 15%, $7,500?
Mark,
This is Melissa. Oh,
yeah, go ahead,
sorry.
Melissa. Go ahead, Melissa.
This is Melissa. I would like to make a motion for hiring Julio as a consultant at the 15%.
And I will second that, Bob Abriola.
Okay. Can we take a vote by name, an aye or nay, or abstain? This is Mark Allen with an aye.
Mark, I have a question. I just want to be sure that I understand. So Julio would be steering the entire project, even through if we needed additional curators. He would he would be managing that process.
Correct.
And so the 15% would be the 15% of the $50,000.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiple curators would be contingent upon the scope of the project, right? If it's one installation, we wouldn't need multiple curators. But if there's if there's 5 of them, Julio and committee may decide we need another or 2 other points of view and more curators.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, my vote is yes.
Lori, aye.
Emerson Striniti, aye.
Peter Smith, aye.
Mr. Callahan.
Matthew Callahan, aye.
Are there any nays? Nor are there any abstentions? Okay, thank you, Julio. Congratulations.
Just for the record, Taker, I know somebody from Telesco is on the phone, most likely. That's item under new business. That's actually item D. So if you want to put that in the minutes to reflect that the record shows it's item D under new business.
Okay,
Congrats, Julio.
thank you, Julio. I feel,
You know, I think Julio is the perfect person for this project. He knows the community. He's from the community. He's very, very much connected with the artists from the community. And in addition to that, by having gone through management and curating and pulling the entire Ryan Park project together. He's intimately knowledgeable about, you know, each of the various steps, even through the city hall procedures and processes and those hurdles that we have to go through. So I just like to congratulate the Arts Commission on us selecting Julio, because I think that he'll be able to do well and make us proud of this project.
I agree with that. Thank you, John. I agree.
Thank you.
And just, can you, Sabrina, can you just quickly go back to the agenda? So as a matter of new business, I just want to tell everybody that I had taken a tour of the Sono Collections art collection, and they are doing a lot of live art now at the mall. You know, I post a lot of art from murals that I like from around the country on my Instagram. And it turns out a couple of the artists that I had posted are artists that were chosen, hired by the mall to do murals inside the mall. There's probably at least 12 large, beautiful murals inside the mall by really, really high profile artists. I definitely, one of the things I've been speaking with, Sabrina, your email is open on the screen, just so you know. I've been including, I've been talking with the Sono Mall about the idea of an art tour of the mall, like a guided tour of all of these murals with information about the artists and so on. Kind of like for Janet and Melissa, you remember like when Susan would organize these van tours of Norwalk, you know, for various things, kind of like that idea, the idea of a guided tour of the mall. Now, this can either be sort of like what Bob said, this could be a virtual tour that's available on Zoom, or it becomes a guided tour that happens by invitation in the mall with a tour guide who sort of, but this is really just being discussed at this time, the idea of that sort of collaboration between the Sono Collection and the Arts Commission to come up with something that sort of like highlights their arts, and really, really good. They're doing a lot of really exciting art stuff there at the mall. So it's really exciting. So I don't have any details on this tour or what that would be, but I'm opening it up to everybody to give your input, and you're welcome to contact me offline and we can talk, we can work on that.
Whatever we do, Mark, we should definitely record it, because then we can keep an inventory of any, you know, art tours or speaks that we do. We can just have it available on the website.
That would be great. That would be a really good idea. I like that idea a lot.
I'd like to
Are
say
they
too,
still
that I'm all
putting
for
up-
this idea. Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I like them all a lot and I want it to thrive, so I like this idea a lot.
Cool.
I was going to ask, are they continuing to put up murals? Because maybe we can document it
Yeah.
as it goes.
Yeah, there's actually 2 being done this week. Five Fingers is doing a mural in the mall live this week. It's live painting, so you guys can go anytime and watch this being created. And there's a second one that's being done by a name I forget, but he's a nationally well-known artist. Yeah, some of the work is spectacular. It's amazing.
What are the chances we could do a time lapse capture of him doing that installation?
He started it yesterday. That may actually be happening. I'm sure it's being documented by the mall, but I'll find out. I definitely will get whatever materials they are creating. I will definitely be able to get. I went there. I took a lot of photographs. I think it would be great to have. They need to basically have professional photographs taken of those things. There was some spectacular work. I definitely.
Duvian has one there in the mall.
He does.
Tell you. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, he does.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay. Can we quickly move on? Sabrina, can you tell us about the Dancing Girl statue donation?
I sure can. So we were approached, oh my God, it's almost been a whole year. But we were approached in August by Sam Haig. He's a Norwalk resident, so is his son. His son is actually also Sam Haig, and he works for the Oak Hills kind of place over there. So they want to donate. His father actually moved to live on a boat in the Norwalk Marina. So he obviously wants to donate the statue to Norwalk where he can still go see it. He didn't really have a location in mind at the beginning of this. He suggested the beach. The city doesn't really have any location at the beach that would be suited for a bronze statue, since the weatherization of the bronze in mixture with the salt water nearby will include for more maintenance.
William B. Peters Art Park.
Yeah, so
What does it look like?
I'm gonna bring that up, right? Can you guys see this, or is it still my website instead? I think it's the website.
Agenda.
Let me finding it. All right, so here is what it looks like.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Beautiful.
It's on its own platform. It's currently at the Webster Bank somewhere, I believe. So this is what it looks like. The Parks and Rec suggested that we place it at Cranberry Park in front of the Carriage House, because they do a lot of performances there. And they have space for it there, and they think it would fit really well. So this is what it looks like on its own base, and it's totally bronze. So you would just have to kind of use shoe polish to maintain it. And Parks and Rec is familiar with that process. So we're just ironing out the details still. So this isn't a formal proposal for you guys to really look at it and critique it and say if we want it or not at this point, because we're still ironing out, who's paying for the maintenance, who's paying the $2,000 to move the statue from the bank property to the park that we choose, and kind of what happens after the fact. If is this a full-on donation where we get to keep this and add it to our inventory, or is this something that in 10 years from now he's going to want to take back? So we're still ironing out all those details, but he seems really open to just donating it to us for us to own it going forward. So how the process would work would be that you guys would review and accept that we want to proceed with the donation. I would then have to bring the proposal with all of the details on a term sheet to the Parks and Rec Committee. The Parks and Rec Committee would then either accept, modify, or deny. That would then go to Common Council if it's approved, and the full council would have to approve the mayor to execute the agreement to fully accept the donation. So that's kind of the legalese process that we have to go through. But as of right now, we just don't have all the terms kind of fleshed out, but I just wanted to bring it up so you guys, were aware of it going forward.
I love it personally.
It's a great piece. The decision on where that goes, right? And is that something the committee would decide on, or you're saying, Sabrina, it's already been decided?
It hasn't necessarily already been decided. It will be finalized and decided by the Parks and Rec Committee.
we can't have a say? I mean, Cranberry Park's beautiful. I'm just wondering if there's any other spot we would
Yeah,
consider.
that's why I bring to your attention, you guys have, you know, there's no legal control that you have over the location. That's really a council decision. But if you want to send me, because I have to attend the meeting to present the item, if you want to send me with, you know, you guys are suggesting that it go here instead, or wherever you end up doing that, I can certainly inform them of that information and they can make the decision of where to place it based off of that.
Okay.
Some things just get easily checked off the list. Like, for example, the beach was easily checked off because of the additional maintenance costs dealing with the salt water and the bronze. But some locations are very open, and Sam, the donor, is very open to, you know, as long as it's in Norwalk, he really doesn't care. He just wants to be able to go see it.
Yeah, Cranberry Park is beautiful. I'm just wondering, is there a spot where more people could see it that's equally as pretty? We could take it offline, but was just thinking
Yeah.
You
out
know, it's
loud.
definitely up for discussion if you guys want to talk about it, you know, in infrastructure or offline in any regard for the location standpoint. I'm happy to present council with any critiques or
Okay.
that you
And
guys.
does he have information on the artist who created it so we could make a
He
plaque for it?
does. So he also got a full appraisal done, which has like all of this information that I can send out to you guys. But it has literally everything about it. It's really actually amazing that they that he actually did the legwork of having all of this information available, because usually that's not the case. Usually we're, you know, scrambling to try to figure out, you know, what's what. So he got a full appraisal done. Let's see.
Yeah, what's it appraised at?
I like it because it fits with the dance is like a very underknown quantity within our Norwalk arts community. We actually have a really large dance community.
So the artist is this, I don't want to butcher the name, but
Eric Giddings.
there you go. So that's the artist. He is a full description.
Oh,
on
so
here.
that bucket's part of the sculpture. Okay, I thought that was just
Yep.
placed on there. That's great. Yeah.
Yep, and then let me scroll down to the actual appraised value at the bottom. So here's the it's been cast in 3 different heights. So if you buy, you know, certain portions of it, which we wouldn't, so
Wow, 500,000 for 87 inches.
Yep,
Oh, and they're giving us all 87 inches.
there you go.
Wowee.
So yeah, it's exciting and interesting, and I hope it pans out. And this is what kind of prompted what Mark mentioned previously tonight, that we don't have a public art policy in place. So if we want to accept a donation, we have no process. But I took the time to kind of check all the boxes with legal to say, you know, what is the process and what should work. And I think we've ironed it out to what I discussed before, which would be you guys review and make a recommendation. The Parks Committee then makes that decision to forward it to council or not, and then the council fully accepts that. And if on the term sheet it says, you know, the city is going to take the cost of maintenance going forward, it makes a case for me to say in a budget item request that we are now going to maintain this piece and associated the costs with that as well. So having that all ironed out really is important before we bring it forward. So I'm gonna, you know, create a memo and a package that you guys will obviously be the first eyes on, and then move it forward through the approval process going forward.
Yeah. It's exciting because as we work out this process, that's going to open the door to other art things to come. Like the same thing with MLK. That's why this project is so important, because how we deal with it allows us to continue to creating future art projects. You know,
And fingers crossed, it becomes easier as it goes. Once we've done it once, we've done it all. So
it's good. Awesome. That's it for new business. I think our time is about up. Does anybody else have anything else to comments or concerns before we move to adjourn?
Mark, just letting everyone know that the that Webster parking lot, the traffic box is done. If anyone's had a chance to
Oh.
look at that,
Yeah.
the Maya Angelou box that came up, I thought it came up pretty good. But if you guys get a chance,
Fantastic. I definitely encourage everybody to go in person and see it. Don't just look it up online. I love it because it fits with the MLK theme indirectly, and it's just great. Really, really well done. Congratulations on that too.
yeah, we're happy with it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? From anybody, or we can hang out until we get cut off?
Motion to adjourn. Bob Ebriol.
Aye.
Aye.
I.
Aye.
Peace.
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
Good
Have a
night.
good night, everybody. Take
Good
care,
night.
and
Night.
let's touch base by phone or email.
Good night.